Well, hello, Agata, and welcome to the Rebuilding My Health Radio podcast. I'm so excited to have you here today to share your story.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. I when I came across your Instagram account, I was just inspired by the fact that, you're sharing your story there and you've created this really powerful platform for other people to find education and inspiration about MS. So let's start with your personal story. Kind of take us back to when the MS journey really began for you and what that looked like.
Yes. So the Instagram account that you were talking about it actually started when I was diagnosed, which was in 2019, March. It's almost 5 years. And now that I look back, I feel like I was a person before and now I'm a different person. Like so many things changed in my life. And I think I can say the same thing about everybody else who is diagnosed with such a disease like multiple sclerosis. So I'm sharing my story on Instagram from the beginning, because in the beginning it was helping me just to find hope with this disease again. And going forward, I kind of felt like people want to know what I'm doing, what I changed in my life. And I was giving hope in a way, and that made me feel amazing, and that's why I'm sharing my story, and that's why we are here today. um,
Yeah.
so yes, I was diagnosed in 2019, and it started out of the blue. I just had anxiety and I was struggling with a little bit of depression, but depression that I didn't understand where it's coming from, because I was newly married. We just came back from our honeymoon, ready to start a family. And then I had a miscarriage, and I just didn't know why it's happening. And because I felt healthy, I was healthy. Yes, I turned 35, but I didn't have any symptoms. Um, so one day we came back from a ski trip and my forehead went numb and I didn't hear anything on my left ear. And I just thought it's the altitude or the plane ride or something,
Mhm.
something just, but it didn't add up. So I went to see my doctor, and I actually had a regular checkup few weeks before, and everything was normal. I didn't even complain about anything. It was just an annual checkup. And when I went back to see her again, she didn't find anything interesting. She
Mhm.
sent me to an ear specialist. And
Mm.
um, I was there probably for an hour. He checked, he ran all the tests, and he was like, yeah, just maybe you didn't sleep well, or maybe, I don't know, water went in your ear, or he didn't have any answers. So on the way out, I was asking him, maybe I can get an MRI, or maybe there is something more, I need to figure out what's going on, because inside I didn't feel good. And he looked at me and he's like, okay, here's the referral. But I think the biggest reason I asked him for a referral was because my dad passed away from cancer 9 years prior, and brain cancer. So all my symptoms
Mhm.
was like pointing to my brain.
Yeah,
And it just
right.
kind of made sense to me to request a brain MRI. I didn't even know what kind of results I should expect or anything. I just wanted
Mhm.
answers. And I went to get my MRI. A week later, they called from the MRI place that I should see a neurologist because I might have multiple sclerosis. And I was like, can you please spell that for me? Because I never heard about multiple sclerosis. Um,
Yeah.
I'm from Romania. So I moved to this country when I was 21. I learned the language I didn't even speak anything. And multiple sclerosis was not something I knew about. And when I Googled it, of course, I called my husband after and I told him what they told me. And he's like, don't Google it. But when you tell somebody not to Google it,
Smart.
that's the first thing I did.
Yeah.
And it was just so, I don't know, I just felt like my life is collapsing in like that
Mhm.
day. I couldn't stop crying. I was trying to find a neurologist just to confirm maybe it's that's not what I have, you know. Luckily, I was able to get an appointment within a week. And I remember being in her office, sitting next to my husband. He was holding my hand, and she looked at the screen. She was like, yeah, there are a few lesions, but I didn't know what questions to ask. I didn't know anything. I was just there to hear that this is nothing, everything is okay, you feel fine, everything's gonna be, because at that point I already started feeling my forehead, and it was few days after, I mean, not days, few weeks after. So she confirmed that I have MS, and I couldn't ask her any questions. I was just sitting there in the office. I was devastated. I'm like, okay, what I was reading in Google, it's gonna come true, like wheelchair and everything, all the negativity, you know, that's associated with this disease. And I was asking her, when can we have a family? When can we start a family? And she was like, no, you have to get on medication, and that's number one. And that was it. I left the office crying. She wanted me to start medication right away. And I said, I don't even remember what I said, but I told her I need to do a little bit more research, and I just need to learn more about this. And I don't think I'm ready to take something for the rest of my life. And that's how it started.
Right, right. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, and that's it's such a quick and devastating thing, you know, because you are kind of like you said, newly married, honeymooning and going on, you know, with your life and planning to start a family, and then kind of almost from one day to the next, right? It felt like the symptoms came on. It's just must have been, you know, just so shocking for it to be that abrupt. It wasn't like a kind of like a like it slowly came on. It's just like, whoa.
And
So,
I don't know the answer, if it's better to that it slowly came on.
right. Yeah, right. Yeah. Yeah, neither is a good thing, but yeah, yeah, it's just yeah, I'm sure for you it felt very out of the blue.
Yeah.
So yeah, and what struck me in reading your personal story in your book was that you know, it kind of felt like and you can share this part as well. Early on, you kind of started having the mindset of beating this, and you know, the fact that you know, you named your Instagram account, you know, beating my MS. I think that maybe kind of showed that, you know, you kind of had this mindset of, you know, I'm gonna overcome. So, you know, tell me more about kind of where that came from.
I think I always had this mindset with everything in life. And this is the scariest thing that happened to me, to be honest. Like nothing, yes, I've been in breakups, I've been in almost plane crashes, I've been in like car accidents, but having this, and this is like a life-changing event. You can recover from anything, but when they tell you that no, there's no cure, you can take the medicine for the rest of your life, and that's not going to guarantee anything, like you just everything gets I'm sorry.
Yeah. Right.
And so when I get this diagnosis, I'm like, yes, I can choose to live that life, or I can just try anything and everything I can to manage this, and not even manage, but it's my life. So I have to take control on it. I have to do my research. If it means I have to change it completely from how I lived, my biggest thing was I wanted to learn as much as I can, because once you have knowledge, there is easier to change things. And when I was leaving my MRI for the spine the second time, I saw this sign on the street, beating cancer. So that's where I'm like, yes, people beat cancer all the time. I can beat this. And that's when I created my Instagram account. I'm like, this is a good name, and I created to motivate myself, mainly to have something that I'm accountable, like remind me every day that this is what I have to do for the rest of my life, because there's no cure. And this is how my life changed, and this is what I have to. And the sooner I expect this, the easier is to move on. That
Mhm.
was in my mind. But and it worked. It worked.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that mindset is so critical, kind of to ground you in all the steps going forward and empower you in those steps going forward. So, what going forward, from that day of diagnosis, as you started reading and learning, kind of what steps did you take to really start, working on your health, and what did you find the most effective?
That day I went home. I went on Amazon and I find Dr. Wall's book, and I started listening to it. I started listening to on Amazon, you can like have a peek in, and I ordered the book right away. And when I started listening, I'm like, no, I cannot wait for 5 days to get the book. I purchased the audio version and I started listening that day. And I get a notebook. I was writing down all the notes that she had, and I realized that how unhealthy my lifestyle was before, and that's where I started. I started changing my diet almost overnight, which I do not recommend to anybody because it was the hardest thing, and it put me in a depression mode. um, but I think I became pregnant a month after, and even though my neurologist said that family has to wait, medication comes first, once I became pregnant, I was just like, okay, my body didn't give up on me. I'm pregnant, and I was hoping it's not going to end up with another miscarriage. So I think it also helped, like I was eating healthy and I was doing everything I could to support my pregnancy and my health. And yes, from the beginning, I feel like the diet was something that I was holding on to. Like I was feeling better once I started eating better. My face numbness went away. Every time I was eating pizza or gluten, like anything that contains gluten, I was feeling the face numbness. So those were signs that I was listening to. And it was so interesting just to discover how my body works when it comes to taking care of or neglecting before. And that was just something that empowered me every day to keep going.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that what I call kind of fast feedback about your own body, like as you make those changes is so powerful no matter what, whether it's MS or, any other symptoms or conditions that you're experiencing. So you really start like with diet, you really started seeing excuse me, seeing changes. Sorry.
Like this too.
Yeah. Yeah, so you very quickly, it sounded like, started seeing changes. And were you kind of doing walls or like a version of the walls protocol?
Yes, in the beginning. But I also had a husband, and he was like, I can't eat broccoli every day, or I can't eat like and I had to cook for him as well. So I didn't want him to change his life because my life just collapsed. I wanted to still like figure out ways how can I make dishes that it's good for both of us. And it was super hard. I was trying new recipes, and I think what I did was really useful. I get rid of everything in my pantry that contains gluten or anything that I cannot eat. And this way it was easier just to bring in more veggies, more fruits, more meat, those things that
Mhm.
heal your body. And yes, that's how it started. And once we get that done, kind of, it was just so much easier to be on the same page with diet and everything. But I wasn't doing the wars protocol from the beginning. I
Mhm.
was just trying to follow because
Mhm.
there's so many things. You're just pregnant, you just change your diet, your life was collapsed
Right.
a month ago. So
Yeah.
for me to be that strict, I just felt like it's too much pressure on me. So I was
Mhm.
just trying
Yeah.
to incorporate more healthy things and not focus on completely on that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I completely understand that feeling of overwhelm, when you look at a pretty extreme kind of elimination diet or big diet change, yeah, it can feel really overwhelming, especially if you're not feeling well. You don't have much energy to try to implement the entire thing all at once. But I think, what you said is important in that, you just start making, the steps that you can make there.
So we used to go out all the time or order in. I never cooked. I cooked once a week. And suddenly I have to cook 5, 6 times a day. Even my husband was like, no, we have to go out. Like our life is cannot stop because of this. And I completely
Yeah.
understood his perspective too. It was just hard to say no to things that you used to love doing, and now suddenly you just have to stay in the kitchen and cook all the time.
Yeah.
So
Right.
I
Right.
I didn't want to limit myself just to do that diet and measure cups and all those. And I know wash protocol is amazing. Anybody who is strict with that has no symptoms or barely have any symptoms. So I highly recommend doing that.
Yeah. Right, right. Yeah, yeah. It's pretty powerful for sure. And so for you personally, what did you find was really important that you needed to eliminate in your diet?
Eating out in restaurants
Mm.
and focusing on eating more home cooked meals,
Mhm.
eating a lot of fruits, replacing my sugar intake from like, just, how they say, like, don't shop in the middle of the supermarket, shop in the front and
Yeah,
in the end when you
right. Yeah.
when the veggies are. And so that's what I completely needed, like a mind shift to realize like what I was putting in my body, it wasn't helping me, it was harming me. So once I get that settled, it was just so much easier to move on.
Yeah. Right, right. Absolutely. Yeah. What other kind of game changing practices did you start following that you found really helped your health?
Well, after the Walls Protocol, I read probably another 20, not even read because reading takes forever, but I listened to
Yeah.
so many other books about autoimmune disease, about chronic illnesses, about healing, about meditation. Highly recommend reading Joe Dispenza's book. And I started meditating. So diet was one, but I also started other things. And I remember one day sitting down and I'm like, okay, I have to learn this meditation because everybody's talking about how healing benefits it has. You cannot be good in meditation. You have to do meditation to be good in your life. So that's what I was ready to do. And I remember sitting down and I'm like, oh my God, I just cannot sit still. Our lifestyle before was always moving, always doing something. I just couldn't sit still for 5 minutes to shut my brain off and not think about anything. But it was practice, and now I meditate every morning. So there are so many other things that I incorporated in my daily routine. That diet was just the beginning, and now it's a million different things. And I share most of it in my story in the book.
Right. Right. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. One of the things that you mentioned is stress, and kind of, reducing the stress in your life. Can you like talk more about that kind of like meditation? Sounds like that was part of it. What other ways have you reduced your stress?
Just mindfulness and realizing when you have stress, because in most cases you just go on with the day and you are stressed for no reason. But if you have awareness that yes, I'm stressed and I have to find ways to calm my brain and just be present and think of the moment and don't overthink things, that really helped me. And another thing is I highly recommend seeing a therapist, because from the beginning, actually my husband sent me to see one, because every time I spoke about my dad, I started crying and he was like, this is not normal. And the therapist was there when I was diagnosed, so he really helped me just to have somebody listening to me. He wasn't solving my problems, I had to solve my problems, but he was there to kind of guide me and ask me the right questions, because in most cases you have a million friends, but they don't know how to ask the right questions. And I think it's very important to have somebody just there when you need to talk. Yeah, the therapist was doing that for me.
Right, right. Yeah, yeah, so important, especially as you're, navigating your health situation as well as, some of the grief and past trauma that you had experienced. So, yeah, so you mentioned, diet, therapy, reducing stress, meditation, anything else that you feel like was like really foundational and that where you saw a change in your health?
I would think exercise, but exercise was always part of me. I wasn't focusing on the right exercise. I wasn't focusing on yoga, which it really helps the body, just not only the body, but detox the brain as well. So I was shifting from like running a lot to doing more like peaceful exercises. And
Mhm.
I saw the change right away, and I think it's very important for everybody, not just for stretching, but just doing some kind of yoga and meditating and those type of things
Mhm.
really help me from the beginning.
Right. Right. Yeah, absolutely. Good, good. Yeah. So tell us kind of where all of that brought you, all of the different things that you started weaving into your life, kind of how that's impacted your health and how your health is today.
I feel better than ever. I am turning 40 next year, and I don't think I don't have any pain. I do have brain fog, and sometimes I can't finish my sentences, but that's only a reminder of that my work is not done. I still can, every day is a new day where I can change things. And I am, yes, I'm just super excited about this book that I kept mentioning.
Yeah.
Um, it's I can't even believe that we have a book, because we started
Yeah.
this project in February, and it's just so exciting. All these amazing people who are sharing their story in the book. It's just so inspirational, and I learned so much from them. When I received their story, we read it, we edited them, and everybody is just sharing tools and tips and how they are overcoming this disease, and what anybody who is newly diagnosed or been living with this multiple sclerosis can do every day just to live better and have a better life.
Mhm.
So yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
super. I know it sounds like, yes, you have MS and you shouldn't be grateful, but I'm so grateful that I was diagnosed when I was diagnosed, because I feel like I get a second chance,
Mhm.
from life to change it for better.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. Yeah. And what an incredible resource you've created with the book. And I've had the chance, to read some of it, and yeah, the stories are just so incredible to see how far people have come and recovered. So I am really curious what you have seen, across all these stories. Like, are there certain, takeaways that are like common themes across the different stories?
Everybody was shocked when they were diagnosed. Some people had severe symptoms. Some people were in wheelchairs. But the common theme is, after reading all of them, is everybody was in stressful situation, but the fact and the way they overcome these, their thoughts, their mindset, their shift, it's so powerful to see how a person can heal itself in a way to get out from wheelchair, or like small simple things to do every day. It's just so powerful, and I think that's what's missing from the Western medicine. Like, doctors don't focus on teaching you these type of things, and I'm happy to have a guide and to provide a guide and bring this to the world so people can read this. And I'm sure anybody who would read it would associate not only one or two stories, but they find similar things in each one of them. And it's when I hear reviews. And today I spoke to my editor after like 2 weeks not talking to her, because we finished the project and now the project
Yeah.
is out. So we don't really have to communicate to the day-to-day basis. So today I called her and she was like, my niece was reading the book because out of nowhere she ended up in bed and she can't move, and the doctors doesn't know what's wrong with her, and they're about to diagnose her, but they're not 100% sure what she has. And she's 20 years old, and she was thinking committing suicide. And once she started reading these books, she just find hope again. And I think that's the message of the book. Like, once you read this, you see like there is hope, and you can
Mhm.
find it in yourself, but you can take other people's stories or examples and just try to follow their path or have some kind of inspiration, you know.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, and that is the most important kind of overarching thing to be able to heal, right? Is that you have hope and some kernel of belief, I guess, that it's possible to heal, to get better. So, yeah, wow, what an amazing story, to hear that, like, already the book's only been out a couple of weeks and, it's already changing lives. So,
Yes, if you read the reviews on Amazon, I'm like, every time, that's my morning. I wake up, I check the reviews, and because it gives me so much like motivation in the
mhm,
morning, and that's how everybody should start their day, just sitting down and like thinking positive things, meditating, being grateful, and all those things. And just small
mhm,
little things can just make an
mhm.
amazing impact on your life.
Yeah, yeah, definitely, for sure. So, I was curious because diet was a big part of your story. And so I did a search in your book, and there were like 325 mentions of diet in the book. And I thought that was kind of interesting. So did you find that that was really kind of common across most of the stories, that diet changes were important?
I think I used to think that is number one on the list, to
Hmm.
change. Now
Hmm.
it's shifted. I think
Okay.
mindset is number one for me, at least.
Hmm.
But I think because I already have the diet part set, now I have to focus on my mindset a little bit more. But yes, and if you read the book, not everybody is on the same diet. Everybody is trying different
Hmm.
diets, and it's working for them. And in my story, I am talking about bioindividuality, which is, it's so complex. It's the work protocol, it's not working for me perfectly, but the AIP diet works for me. So you have to figure out what diet works. But the basics is try to stay away from gluten, dairy, refined sugar, corn, soy, those things that are more harmful than useful, and try to incorporate more of meat, veggies, fruits, and yes, those things. So yes, we talk about the diet all the time. It's a very important part.
Yeah, right, right. And then I think also looking at root causes, did you find across the stories that there were any like common like root causes behind MS, or curious
Yes,
about that?
I think when somebody is diagnosed, everybody they should look into the root cause, because there's always one. And I wish that Western medicine focuses more on root cause. Once I discovered functional medicine, and I have my functional medicine doctor twice a year. I'm seeing her, and she's requesting a very intensive blood work. We were able to figure out what was the root cause and why I have inflammation in my body. And I think it's very important. Root cause can be stress, can be environment, can be toxins, can be food. There are so many things,
Mhm.
but you have to look at the whole picture, and everybody's different. So when it comes to root cause, it's one of the most important things. When somebody is diagnosed, I think root cause is should be the first thing that they should check.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So, and then personally for you, was it kind of a mix of root causes with stress, and what all did you find when you started looking?
Yes, I think my lifestyle, the way I used to live, and the fact that I'm not with my family, I'm living 9,000
Mhm.
miles away from them, and just everything. And of course, I had a miscarriage. My body was filled with medication. I had a procedure, and I started doing hot yoga for whatever reason, and that was really, escalated the whole thing. Um, I was pushing myself to the limit. That's the
Yeah.
and that's I didn't sleep. I was drinking. We were going out all the time, and it's you can do that for a while, but you need to give break, And I didn't know where break
Mhm.
is. I
Yeah.
had to learn break, and for everybody, of course, it's different. Everybody has different triggers. That was my trigger, I think.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Your body just kind of had enough.
Yes.
Um, well, Agatha, like, I guess, what advice would you give someone who's newly diagnosed with MS? If you were to be able to just share a few words with them.
I It's so hard because the first few weeks I think is the hardest to to learn. I don't even know. I know for me it was so devastating. I didn't want to talk to anybody. I didn't want to leave the bed. I was just so depressed. And you can go down on this road so easily, but I think it's the best if you start to educate yourself and reach out to people who are doing well and learn from them. And you don't have to change your life overnight, but start to implement things that you never thought it would be useful. Just keep learning and don't give up. It's not you cannot associate this disease with a wheelchair, because that's what you're going to hear in the doctor's office. You have to associate it with people who are doing well, and I feel like this book, it's a perfect example because there are 65-year-olds who are dancing every day and living their life perfectly normal, and that's what you have to look forward to. You cannot be depressed and just go down the rabbit hole.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I agree. Well, Agatha, maybe share where people can find you, kind of your site and where they can find the book and all that.
So I'm on social media most of the time, Instagram, and I have a YouTube channel. But if you want to join my Facebook group, we are planning to come out with a program that will help, or at least give you some reminders what to do every day and to live a better, healthier life. But yes, Instagram and Facebook.
Okay, great, great, good.
And
And we will link. Oh,
no,
yeah,
no,
go.
no, no, no. I just forgot to. The book is available on Amazon and on our website, which is beatingmultiplesclerosis.com. Sorry, I forgot that part.
Yeah, no worries, no worries. Great. And we will put all of those links in the show notes so people can easily find that information. Well, Agata, thank you so much for coming on to share your story. I know that it will touch people not just with MS, but who may be facing, a different chronic condition, and give them some hope and perhaps some ideas for how to move forward. So I really appreciate.
So I hope so, because like even with this book, our goal and everybody goal who share their story, if we can help one person, it was worth our effort. And that's what I
Yeah.
have in mind all the time.
Yeah, and you already have. Yeah, you know that you already have. So, you ultimately, I'm sure, will help thousands, if not millions, of people. So,
I
yeah,
hope.
congratulations.
Thank you, thank you. It all starts changing, and it's not only who were diagnosed, but I hope we can open people's eyes the way they live and this stressful life that we are in, this roller coaster, or not even roller coaster, like a mousetrap, basically, like
Mhm.
that we have to go back to our
Yeah.
roots, not root cause, but our roots to start living a better life. That's where it starts, to prevent these illnesses, not to try to overcome it.
Right. Yeah, yeah, exactly. Exactly. It's even better if you can like
Yeah.
prevent it from happening in the first place. So, yeah, definitely, definitely. Yeah, yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. You're part of kind of the revolution of, changing, the lifestyle that can lead to chronic illness. So thank you, Agata. I really appreciate your sharing your story and all your wisdom. So,
Thank you so much for having me.
yeah.
Talk to you soon.
Okay. Take care.